Ah, well, hello there, and welcome back. Today I have something very different in store for you. While I work out my stories to share, I figured it would be a nice change of pace to discuss a film that I personally feel like doesn't get enough attention. So please, grab a seat and grab some snacks, and let's get right into it. Time to get spooky. Night of the Headless Horseman is a 1999 TV special that's based on the legend of Sleepy Hollow. When you think of the Headless Horseman tale, most people will typically think of the original story or the Tim Burton adaptation, Sleepy Hollow. For this discussion, I won't be comparing it to the source material, nor other adaptations. I wish to look at this film for what it does well and what it doesn't do well, and ultimately see if this movie is something worth watching during this spooky season. I'll break this up into parts, starting with the plot of the film. The movie begins after the opening credits, with a man desperately trying to escape the Headless Horseman. He attempts to defend himself, but finds himself outmatched and continues to flee. The horseman disappears, leaving the man to wander around the dark woods, while strange noises and deep laughter echoes in the night. He finds refuge at a building near a body of water. Exhausted, he takes a break from running, thinking he has lost the horseman, only for the horseman to appear and approach the man. He raises his hand in defense of the horseman's swings. Ultimately, he falls victim to the horseman, with him losing his head. While we never find out who this man is, I think that the opening is really well done, and it really sets the tone of what you can expect from the rest of this movie. I'll get into it later about why I think this is effective. Just know that I really enjoy how this movie opens up, and how it shows how dangerous the horseman actually is. We then cut to a new scene at the Sleepy Hollow Inn. We hear the voice of the narrator speaking to a man while they both rest in front of a warm fire.
You don't mean, sir, that it happened here?
I tell you truly, young Mr. Irving, it was here, in this very valley, that it happened.
The narrator tells the man of strange happenings in Sleepy Hollow, including the horseman himself.
A dark rider, without a head. He is said to be the ghost of a Hessian mercenary.
He begins to share the tale of Ichabod Crane, transitioning to several years prior. Here, we are introduced to Ichabod and his friend, Adrian Van Ripper.
Being the new schoolmaster, I reckon you figure Sleepy Hollow's tales of strange, ghostly doings to be foolishness.
I'll go over who these characters are in the character section, but right now I'm just discussing the overall plot of the story. Adrian tells Ichabod of the various ghosts and other creepy things that happen in Sleepy Hollow as they pass several landmarks. Adrian then proceeds to tell him of the Headless Horseman briefly.
But all of that, why, 'tis nothing to the master of the lost spirits. The Headless Horseman. The Headless whom?
The narrator takes control again as we see Ichabod has a thing for impressing women and being the target of child shenanigans. Adrian informs Ichabod of an unmarried rich young woman by the name of Katrina. Ichabod responds to this news by sneaking away, heading to her father's farm.
But such as you and I have no hope to ever woo Katrina Then...
We then are greeted with two new characters as the narrator continues to speak. Brom Bones and Katrina Van Tassel have a rocky relationship, and as they argue about their future, Ichabod approaches and seemingly charms Katrina. This causes Brom to storm off, and so begins the feud for Katrina's love. Ichabod is then invited to her father's house for dinner, and here the father warns Ichabod about the Headless Horseman riding around at night, scaring Ichabod.
The Headless Horseman is why not, sir. The season comes when he rides and seeks a head to replace his own.
The scene fades to the inn as Brom and his buddy Dolphus talk about Ichabod and how he's trying to steal Katrina away from Brom, ending with him threatening to hurt Ichabod. As the narrator begins to speak again, we see Adrian's house. Ichabod is there having dinner with him and his family, and Adrian reveals the backstory of the Headless Horseman.
Yeah, I help you. I help you meet the devil!
No, please! I surrender.
We're treated to a flashback where we see who the Horseman used to be, what he did, and the incident that cursed the Horseman to wander the land in search of a head. I really enjoyed seeing the Horseman's backstory and just how evil he was. The dynamic between Ichabod and Brom is also really fun to watch. At this point, I believe all the characters have been introduced, and this is the part of the story where it begins to really pick up, with the exception of just one scene. The next time we see Brom, he's attempting to win back Katrina's favor, but failing to do so. He makes his feelings known about Ichabod, and Katrina proceeds to tease him about it.
He, at least Ichabod Crane, does not shudder at the word wedding. Out!
The next scene follows Ichabod as he teaches a small group of students. They share some back and forth banter before Brom sneaks up to the window. He convinces one of the students to play along as Brom uses a slingshot to mess with Ichabod.
But first, we need our schoolmaster's attention.
When Isaac Newton was struck by the idea...
Brom then tells the child to say that it's the Headless Horseman that's causing these disruptions. This scares Ichabod and causes him to threaten the child with punishment. The kid then reveals that Brom is behind it all, and the two share a minor confrontation, with Brom throwing a knife close to Ichabod's feet and shooting his rifle at a tree.
Whoa! Now, see here.
Brom begins to threaten Ichabod when Katrina's father shows up. He offers Ichabod to come with him, leaving Brom alone as Dolphus approaches. I'm sure by now you've picked up on the film's unique animation. Especially during the school scene, you really see just how limited they were in their animation budget. Don't worry, I plan on addressing it later. Just know that I'm not ignoring it. The next scene shows Katrina and her father discussing everything that's been happening. Her father warns her that it's a dangerous game that she's playing with the two men. She tells him not to worry, as she knows what she's doing.
Daughter, this is a dangerous game you're playing with Brom and the schoolmaster.
Don't worry, Father. I cannot juggle 3 rolling pins, but 2 I can juggle. Mwah!
Soon, we cut to Brom and Dolphus hatching a scheme as Ichabod is providing singing lessons for a group of women, including Katrina. The scheme that he created was to cause a large cloud of smoke to make everyone think that there's a fire. In the chaos, Ichabod is left behind, and Brom approaches him in a disguise, brandishing a knife.
Hey, Katrina, where... It's him!
Ichabod panics and knocks himself out, and when he wakes, Katrina tells him that she saved him from the building, to which Ichabod mishears and thinks that he saved her. Katrina plays along and gives Ichabod a kiss. This infuriates Brom, and he hatches a new plan. He talks with Dolphus while they are on the road that the Headless Horseman is said to ride. He reveals his true feelings and plans on making a deal with the lost spirits, and Dolphus tries to warn him against it.
The horseman, in search of his lost head. I don't like lingering here, Brom. Let us be away.
While he accepts that his actions had made him lose Katrina, he refuses to lose her to Ichabod Crane. We're then treated to a scene that always gave me nightmares as a kid. I personally find it to be the best scene in the movie, and I'll go into detail why I think that is later. The scene opens, and we see Ichabod in his pajamas walking around a cemetery, saying he's lost. A voice responds, and the severed head of the horseman speaks to him.
I have lost my body, or my body has lost me.
He runs away terrified, but then slows down, still looking scared. He hears his name being called out, and turns to see a corpse that's missing his arm. He shambles forward, demanding that Ichabod give him his arm.
I need one more. You have to.
He flees from the corpse, but trips and lands in front of another corpse that's missing his leg. He also demands that Ichabod give him his legs.
I need one of your legs. Give me your leg.
Ichabod eventually comes across an undead version of Brahm as he engraves Ichabod's name into a gravestone. It's then revealed that it was all a dream, and Ichabod wakes up to Dolphus calling out for him through the window. Dolphus invites Ichabod to a party that's being held at Katrina's father's place. Ichabod agrees, and we cut to the party. When Ichabod arrives, he asks Katrina to dance, and they do so. We then watch them dance, and once over, Ichabod is instructed to come hang out with the men to share stories. The dance scene, in my opinion, goes on for far too long. It ruins the momentum of the story, but once it's over, we get right back into the action. Ichabod finishes up his tale and tries to leave, but is told to wait and listen to Brahm's tale.
Which he tells only once a year on Halloween.
Brahm goes into detail about how one night he ran into the Headless Horseman and races him to a bridge that, if the legend is true, the Horseman cannot cross.
But the horseman saw it too, and he called all his nightmare minions to stop me from reaching it.
He narrowly escapes and warns that if your horse be not fast enough, well,
Any head will do.
Ichabod is kicked out of the father's house as a storm begins to brew. On his way home, Ichabod sees illusions and whispers that cause him to panic a little. He gets his emotions under control and tries to focus on getting home. That's when he sees the horseman for the first time. The chase begins, and Ichabod avoids the horseman and his minions, making his way to the bridge.
Safety, perhaps, if the legend is true. Hurry! The bridge!
He crosses it and believes himself to be safe until the horseman launches a flaming jack-o'-lantern at Ichabod, which explodes when it makes contact with Ichabod's head. The narrator goes on to say how Brahm and Katrina got married shortly after, and that Ichabod was never seen again.
And as for Ichabod Crane, he was seen in Sleepy Hollow never again.
A wonderful tale.
It cuts back to the inn, and the narrator finishes up his tale to the man sitting with him. The man enjoyed the tale, but says it's nothing more than just that. It's then revealed that the narrator was Brahm, and the deal he had struck with the horseman was for him to take his place.
Now I wonder if you could do me a favor. They won't let me keep this head. Hold on to it for me while I go in search of another one, won't you?
The movie ends with a shot of the horseman throwing a pumpkin at the viewers. And that concludes the story portion of this video. Overall, I really enjoyed the story that was presented here. Some would say that the romance was a little bit too rushed, but I disagree. The movie implies that Katrina is purposefully trying to juggle two men at once, hinting that she wants the friction between the two to further her own agenda of getting married. So I think it makes sense as to why she's quick to flirt with Ichabod. I think that the rivalry between Brahm and Ichabod works well, and we get to see that by Brahm getting more and more desperate as the film goes on in order to get rid of Ichabod. With the exception of the dancing scene, I think the pacing is serviceable. Not great, but not bad either. Characters remain consistent with their motives, and the villain, being the Horseman, worked really well. He was built up throughout, only catching glimpses of his ruthlessness, until the end, where we see him end Ichabod's life. I felt the ending overall was done well too. The deal Brahm made to take the Horseman's place if he got rid of Ichabod is haunting, as we see just how far Brahm was willing to go in order to ensure that he doesn't lose his love to someone he despises. While the story worked well for me, let's see how the other parts of the film hold up. Now would be a good time to go over the star-studded cast. It actually surprised me in how many celebrities were tied to this film. We'll go down the list in no particular order. First, we have Ichabod Crane, voiced by William H. Macy. If that name seems familiar, that's because he plays prominent roles in movies such as Jurassic Park 3, Mystery Men, Pleasantville, and also in the TV show Shameless. Just so I don't repeat myself for every character, I'll say that every voice actor does a great job with what they're given. How they deliver their lines really draws you in to immerse you. But how is Ichabod as a character? He's presented as a scholar who can easily be frightened by superstitions. He has a way with the ladies and finds himself falling for Katrina, not just for her looks and skills as a singer, but for her status and riches as well. Despite his disadvantage when it comes to physical strength, he seems confident enough to disrupt Brahm's relationship with Katrina. He attempts to swoop in and steal Katrina for himself, but not for the reasons that would be considered romantic. It's unclear if the characters within the film are aware of Ichabod's other motives for wanting Katrina, but as a viewer, it's hard to root for him. He's not a downright evil character, but he's not a morally good one either. He comes off as very timid unless food or Katrina is involved. His goal throughout the movie is to win over Katrina and marry her, to not only be with her, but to have access to her father's wealth. He constantly creates friction with Brahm, with it ultimately ending with Ichabod's demise. You don't want to root for him, but you also feel bad just enough to not want to see the Horseman get him, as he doesn't do anything to earn such a terrible fate. Next is Brom Bones, played by Luke Perry. His notable credits are Beverly Hills 90210, Riverdale, and the film Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He plays Brom extremely well, the voice matching the character's appearance perfectly. Brom is a blacksmith who has been with Katrina for several years, but is afraid to take that last step and ask for her hand in marriage. At times, he lets his anger get the best of him, making him do incredibly reckless things for the sake of love. He hates Ichabod for attempting to steal Katrina's love. Him and his friend Dolphus come up with plans and schemes to get rid of Ichabod, going from harsh threats all the way to making a deal with the spirits to end Ichabod's life. In a one-on-one conversation with Dolphus, it's revealed to the audience that Brom truly does love Katrina. With the exception of one scene where Katrina says that she knows that he makes eyes at other girls, Brom doesn't really do anything bad in the relationship itself, other than wait too long to marry. His only real evil act starts to happen after Ichabod enters the picture and wedges himself in between Katrina and Brom. Brom's goal is to win over Katrina again, and if he can't have her, then he won't let it be Ichabod that gets her. In the end, he succeeds and marries Katrina, but ultimately meets his end to take the Horseman's place. I personally feel bad for what happens to him throughout, but I don't agree with how he chooses to deal with it. His actions sort of make him a second villain of the movie. Dolphus is Brom's buddy, and he's voiced by Bill... I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's the guy who voices Patrick Star in SpongeBob. He brings a goofy energy to the character, serving as comic relief, as well as Brom's advisor. While only a minor role, he still does things within the film to warrant his presence there, notably being the one to convince Ichabod to come to the Halloween party. His goal is a little bit more wholesome, as he just wants to see his buddy get back into his relationship. He goes along with most of the plans, but only really expresses concern when Brom wants to make a deal with the Horseman. His fate is unknown. Katrina serves as a love interest to both Brom and Ichabod. She's voiced by Tia Carrera, the same voice actress who plays Nani in Lilo and Stitch. Again, I think she brings a good performance to the role, but at times, the audio does seem off. Not by anything that she does, but more so in the editing process. Other than that, she plays Katrina as a very sweet young girl who just wants to find that perfect man to ask for her hand in marriage. After a back and forth that she has with Brom, she begins to fall for Ichabod. While it's not explicitly said that she's going after Ichabod on purpose to make Brom jealous, there is a line that I find interesting. In a conversation with her father, she hints that she can juggle two pins at once. There's a few ways to take this, but for me, I see her as trying to use Ichabod to get under Brahm's skin to make him jealous. With lines that hint that Brahm might not be entirely loyal, she could also be doing this as a sort of revenge. At the end of the film, she ends up marrying Brahm and eventually passes away. Her being with Ichabod is the main reason as to why Brahm does the things that he does. Adrian Ripper is Ichabod's friend that introduces both him and the audience to the legends of Sleepy Hollow. And who is he voiced by? Mark Hamill. Which I don't think I need to go into detail about who he is. He serves primarily as an in-universe way to explain the tale of the Headless Horseman, which leads us to the narrator. Clancy Brown voices the narrator. He's also credited with voicing the Hessian Trooper, the voice of Mr. Krabs in this movie along with Patrick Starr. If I had a nickel for every SpongeBob voice actor that appeared in this movie, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. I think he does the best in terms of really immersing you into the movie from when he first speaks to his final lines when the movie ends. Baltus, Katrina's father, is voiced by Jeff Bennett. He's the one that voiced Johnny Bravo and Dexter's dad from Dexter's Laboratory. While a very minor role, he does serve as the voice of reason as he tries to tell Katrina it's a rough game that she's playing messing around with the 2 men. While he's not a fan of Ichabod, he also doesn't like how Brahm behaves. The characters aren't really that complex, but they do accomplish what they were created to do. Unfortunately, this is where I give the film some negative criticisms. If you've already seen this movie, or you've been paying attention to the background footage, you'll quickly notice the very, very harsh animation. This is what I think truly holds the film back for many people. It's uncanny, and in cases like the school scene, downright disturbing.
Holy Jesus. What is that?
I'm not sure if it was because of a lack of funding for better animation, a time issue, or some other third thing. I can't really say for sure. I personally don't find it so repulsive that I can't enjoy the rest of the movie. In fact, sometimes the bad animation can work. Now wait, hear me out for a second. The disturbing way that the characters move and look could actually make certain parts of the movie feel creepier. It's best seen during the whole graveyard dream sequence. The movement of the undead and the overall poor quality enhances this part of the movie, I think. But, I have to be honest, the animation is absolutely terrible. It makes me wonder what this film could look like with better animation. Since we're on the topic of negatives, the dance scene. Personally, this drags on for far too long, and it really kills the pacing of the story. Not only that, but I feel like it's kind of out of place here. Realistically, it only lasts for 1 minute and 20 seconds, and that doesn't seem long, but in the moment, it really does drag. Now, as far as the sound effects, art design, and music go, I think that's all done really well. Despite the poor animation, the overall look works for me. It makes me wish we could see this made with better technology. The music has the vibe of Halloween, and is very haunting with some of the tracks. Now for the big question. Should you watch it this Halloween? Personally, yes. I think it does a good job at capturing that creepy atmosphere for this holiday season. To my knowledge, I don't think you can buy this movie digitally or stream it on any platform, but there are uploads of it here on YouTube. I won't point out which channels they are, but if you just search the movie, you'll find them. This movie was always a childhood favorite whenever Halloween rolled around. The point of this video wasn't to prove that it's better than you think, or anything like that. I simply want to draw attention to a film that I feel like doesn't get brought up a lot, and when it does, it's mostly in a negative light. Hopefully, you decide to revisit it, or check it out for the first time, and get some enjoyment out of it. And hopefully, you enjoyed this video. I've always wanted to try my hand at something like this, so I hope you liked it. I'll be doing similar content while I work on my stories. Speaking of which, I have 3 terrifying tales that I plan on posting later on this week as part of a Halloween special, so look forward to that. Good night, and as always, stay spooky.